Byways to Blessedness by Jame. Chapter 3 Transcending Difficulties and Perplexities. And the perplexities, man who would be must rule the empire of himself. In it must be supreme, establishing his throne on vanquished will, quelling the anarchy of hopes and fears, be himself alone, surely. Have you missed your aim? Well, the mark is still shining. Did you faint in the race? Well, take a breath for the next. L. Willard Wilcox. To suggest that any degree of blessedness may be extracted from difficulties and perplexities will doubtless appear absurd to many, but truth is ever paradoxical, and the curses of the foolish are the blessings of the wise. Difficulties arise in ignorance and weakness, and they call for the attainment of knowledge and the acquisition of the strength. As understanding is acquired by right living, difficulties become fewer and perplexities gradually fade away, like the perishable mists which they are. Your difficulty is not contained primarily in the situation which gives rise to it, but in the mental state with which you regard that situation and which you bring to bear upon it. That which is difficult to a child presents no difficulty to the matured mind of a man, and that which to the mind of an intelligent man is surrounded with perplexities would afford no ground for perplexity to an intelligent man. To the untutored and undeveloped mind of the child, how great and apparently insurmountable appears the difficulties which are involved in the learning of some simple lesson. How many anxious and laborious hours, days, or even months its solution costs, and frequently how many tears are shed in hopeless contemplation of the unmastered and apparently unsurmountable wall of difficulty. Yet the difficulty is in the ignorance of the child only, and its conquest and solution is absolutely necessary for the development of intelligence and for the ultimate welfare, happiness, and usefulness of the child. Even so is it with the difficulties of life with which older children are confronted, which it is imperative for their own growth and development that they should solve and surmount, and each difficulty solved means so much more experience gained, so much more insight and wisdom acquired. It means a valuable lesson learned, with the ended gladness and the freedom of a task successfully accomplished. What is the real nature of a difficulty? Is it not a situation which is not fully grasped and understood in all its bearings? As such, it calls for the development and exercise of a deeper insight and broader intelligence than has hitherto been exercised. It is an urgent necessity calling forth unused energy and demanding the expression and employment of latent power and hidden resources. It is therefore a good angel, albeit disguised friend, a teacher, and when calmly listened to and rightly understood, leads to larger blessedness and higher wisdom. Without difficulties, there could be no progress, no unfoldment, no evolution. Universal stagnation will prevail, and humanity would perish for union. Let a man rejoice when he is confronted with obstacles, for it means that he has reached the end of some particular line of indifference or folly. It is now called upon to summon up all his energy and intelligence in order to extricate himself, and to find a better way, that the powers within him are crying out for greater freedom, for a large exercise and the scope. No situation can be difficult of itself. It is a lack of insight. It is a lack of insight into its intricacies and the want of wisdom in dealing with it which give rise to the difficulty. Immeasurable, therefore, is the gain of a difficulty transcended. Difficulty do not spring into existence arbitrarily and accidentally. They have their causes, and are called forth by the law of evolution itself, by the growing necessities of the man's being. Herein resides their blessedness. There are ways of conduct which end inevitably in complications and perplexities. And there are ways of conduct which lead that thus ends inevitably out of troublesome complexities. Howsoever tightly a man may bind himself round, he can always unbind himself into whatsoever moraines of trouble and trackless widths of perplexities he may have ignorantly wandered. He can always find his way out again, can always recover the lost highway of unevolved simplicity which leads straight and clear to the sunny city of wise and blessed action. But he will never do this by sitting down and weeping in despair, nor by complaining and worrying and aimlessly wishing he were differently situated. His dilemma calls for alertness, logical thoughts, and calm calculation. His position requires that he shall strongly command himself, that he shall think and search and rouse himself to strenuous, unremitting exertion in order to regain himself. Worry and anxiety only serve to heighten the gloom and exaggerate the magnitude of the difficulty. If he will but quietly take himself to task, and retrace in thought the more or less intricate way by which he has come to his present position, he will soon perceive where he made mistakes, will discover those places where he took a false turn, and where a little more thoughtfulness, judgment, economy, or self-denial would have saved him. He will see how, step by step, he has involved himself in a riper judgment and a clearer wisdom would have enabled him to take an altogether different and truer course. Having proceeded thus far, and extracted from his past conduct this priceless grain of golden wisdom, his difficulty will already have assumed less impregnable proportions, and will then be able to bring to bear upon it the searchlight of dispassionate thought, to thoroughly optimize it, to comprehend it,